Good afternoon to all of you. Now we can start the second session of today's, for which we are so thankful to our respectable Professor Bhartendu Singh sir, a very senior professor in the field of commerce and management. He is currently professor in the Department of Commerce, Mizoram University. Before that, he was 2 times head of the Department of the Commerce, Mizoram University. Sir published a large number of papers in very reputed journals and books also. So we are so thankful that he accepted our invitation to deliver lecture on this 5 days of DP program on organizational behavior. And we always thankful to Professor Bhartendu sir for giving his support. And he is a very good speaker and researcher. And I feel proud that he will deliver lecture to our participants. Thank you so much, sir. Now you can start the lecture, sir. Professor Bhartendu, sir.
Okay, thank you, Amit ji, for so many kind words for me. I don't know how much I deserve all those things. So at least 50% I will accept, but 50% I think I doesn't fit on that. And the day Amit informed me, requested me to be here for this program, I told I may not be the right person to talk on leadership. Sometimes I feel I myself miss the quality of being a leader. So unless I'm a leader, I cannot talk about leadership. But still, he insisted me to talk on this. Actually, my research area is different. But he told me to be on this line, so I told okay. So let's see, and I'll try to present the views what I'm having on leadership. So I'll go for this slide shares now. And as Amit already introduced me, I'm B. Singh, Bhartendu Singh, and I'm in Department of Commerce, Mizoram University. So I'll start with the leadership.
Yes, sir.
So the word leadership, when it comes to me, the first face which comes to my mind is Gandhiji. Actually, for me, leadership means a person who is having qualities of Gandhiji. Why Gandhiji is because he was the person, he's a leader who, instead of preaching to others, he practiced himself. Whatever he want to say to others, he first practiced himself and let the followers follow him based on his activities. That is the real leadership in my view. I'm just telling others to do this or do that. That is also a kind of leadership, instructing others. But unless I follow it myself, it doesn't works properly. So because of that, I regard him as the best leader so far we have seen. If you see his contribution in Indian independence, actually, I don't consider him only an independent fighter, freedom fighter. I consider him as a social reformer. Freedom fighting is one part of that. What he did in freedom fighting was he united the country. Before that, there were persons who were fighting for independence, and all those were very, very great persons. Everyone who contributed, they contributed a lot for our independence. And this independence is not outcome of 1% or 2% or 5%. It is actually outcome of great many people's great many contributions. Many unsung heroes are also there, which we actually don't know, but they contributed a lot. They sacrificed their life for this. So all those things are there. But all those were doing it in a different pockets of the country. They were doing something in isolation from each other. What Gandhiji did, he united everyone. He traveled across India. He was respected everywhere. So in a way, he recollected everyone to do the efforts in right direction, in same direction, in synchronization with each other. So that was his contribution, that he united everyone and started leading towards the goal. And Subhasji also did same thing. He also united the people. Their ways were different. Garam Dal and Naram Dal. their main objective was same, independence, and they were how they wanted to achieve it by uniting great many peoples. So that's why I have chosen these two persons photo here, because I feel they united everyone, they influenced thinking of people, and then only he took all the followers towards a particular goal, and finally they achieved it. So these two people are, because of that I have chosen. Why Salt March? Because if you see, Salt March is more a symbolic thing. It's more an act which actually recognize, collected people and united people. And from here, actually, the struggle for independence was, it took a new height. They started breaking rules, and with all politeness. And why Azad Hind Fauj? Because at that time India was not dependent, not independent. Britishers were there, but at that age, in 1942, well before independence, Subhasji organized an army of more than 75,000 people. That was a great effort what he did at that time. So these are the reason why I have chosen these two leaders. But actually, I'm not going to talk about political leadership. I'm just going to talk about the simple leadership. So let's go further. So if we take, there are many definitions are there. If I take one, so it is leadership is the ability to persuade others to seek defined objectives enthusiastically. It is the human factor which binds a group together and motivates it towards the goal. Okay, so it is ability to persuade. The leadership is an ability to persuade others. Why? Why to persuade? To seek defined objective and not just take objective enthusiastically. Where I'm myself is doing something. It is not others are forcing me to do. It is coming from my side. It is a human factor which binds a group together, tie together, bring together, and then motivates towards a goal. So many aspects of leadership is incorporated in this definition. That's why I've chosen it to be here. If you see basic characteristics of leadership, things are available everywhere. It is basically a personal quality. When we talk about leadership, we talk about personal, that particular person's inner quality, real quality of him. And that quality motivates the individuals to be with the leaders. Why we follow a particular leader? Why don't we follow some other leaders? It is because of the qualities that particular person is having, which attracts me. I may be attracted to leader A, but not leader B. And you may be following leader B, not leader A. Why? Because I like personal qualities of leader A, so I follow him. And you like qualities of leader B, so you follow her, or whatever is the case. The leader, by exercising his leadership or her leadership, tries to influence the behavior. Why try to influence behavior? Just to achieve the predetermined objectives, just to fulfill those objectives which are already decided. And now if you see the picture behind me, what Gandhiji or Subhasji did, they tried to influence behavior of people of India for what? Predetermined objective, that is independence. Okay. Now leaders tries to influence the individuals to behave in a particular way. They treat, they work in a direction that takes them towards a particular way. If we again quote Gandhiji, he told it is not target which is important, it is the way we follow is more important. So we cannot get the right thing by following wrong way. So his preaching, his teaching, his ideals or his message to the population was follow good path. So the way we should proceed, that is important. So the third point is on that behavior. Then next is there is relationship between leaders and individuals. Individuals means followers who are following the leader, which arise out of functioning of a common goal. So why we are choosing a particular leader? So I want a particular goal to be achieved. A common goal should be there. So all the followers of a person, they are following him because they all are having same goal, achieving a particular thing, and then they are working in that direction. And leadership is a continuous process. It keeps on going. The leadership is exercised in a particular situation. The situation variables also affect the effectiveness of the leader. A leader in two different situations may not be same effectiveness, may not be having same effectiveness. That effectiveness change. Why change? Situation is different. Problem is same problem. If it comes to situation A, my reaction will be different, and same problem in situation B, my reactions will be different. So that situation variables also affect my quality of leadership. Okay. Now let's see some theories, some popular theories, and actually we are aware of all those popular theories. Most of the participants here are mostly teachers. There may be some research scholars also, mostly from commerce and economics and management background. So we all have read different theories. So in short, I will see just 2-3 theories of leadership, main theories, defining theories. So first, and among the oldest theory is the trade theory. And this trade theory actually focuses on the concept that leaders are born. They are not made. They cannot be trained. They are the persons who born with certain qualities, certain traits. And a leader must have certain qualities or certain traits to become a successful leader. That is the main idea behind trade theory. So what people did under this theory is they tried to identify different traits, many traits. It's not 1, 2, 10. There's a long list of traits are there, and then they see how these traits are going to affect leadership. And it is assumed that these traits cannot be taught. This cannot be no one can be trained in these traits. They are the people get it by birth only. So what are these characteristics? First thing is personality. A good personality should be there. Okay, personality doesn't mean only physical outlook. It is many other things. It is a very complex thing. So altogether, it's personality. If you see simply physical thing, Lal Bahadur Shastri ji was a short-heighted person, very lean and thin, and his dress sense was very simple, very simple. But he still is a very good leader. It is not because of his physique. It is because of the act he did, the way he led us, or the way he was dealing the things that made us believe in him, isn't it? Okay. Then appeal. There are some leaders who are having very great appeal. If they say something, people follow. And at the same time, there are people, there are leaders, we follow them, but we don't follow each and every instruction given by them. I will again take example of Shastri ji. During my childhood or maybe before my birth, maybe, I read it in stories that once there was some shortage of wheat in India, in agricultural shortage. So Shastri ji told that what if we stop eating rice one time, if we take only once, then our problem will be solved. And most of the Indians left one-time meal. And just suppose if you are taking anything twice in a day and we start making only once in a day, so our consumption will be half, nearly half of that. Okay, and then that shortage can be handled, isn't it? So that a person like Shastri ji told, Lal Bahadur Shastri ji told, as he was prime minister at that time, he told and people followed. If I tell you that don't take lunch today and we'll continue for 3 hours, I don't know, I don't feel that other than Amit ji, anyone will stop here. Okay, isn't it? Because that appeal I don't have. So that appeal is very important. So what is that appeal? But how to define this appeal? Then self-confidence is a very important thing, isn't it? Unless I am confident in myself, I cannot lead others. It is confidence only which makes a people become leader. If he is not confident in itself, for some time he can be a leader, but he cannot remain a leader for long. Achievements, yes, everyone praises the rising sun. We see achievements, We try to follow the person who has achieved something in his life. So achievement is obviously there, but it doesn't mean that the person who failed in first or second attempt is a failure. Not now, but later on he can get success. And an ability to formulate a clear vision is obviously, unless vision is clear, no one can be a leader. So according to this theory, there are certain personal qualities. Some 10, 15 are there, some list I will see after this, that are essential to be a successful leader. And it cannot be injected in our blood. It has to be with our birth only. A leader should be psychologically better. He must be having a good judgment and involved in social activities. He cannot remain in isolation. He has to be actively involved in society. And he must be sharing more and more information. He must be sharing the information with all the followers. Okay. When Gandhiji was there, he used to write every day. If you see Gandhi Vandme, it is more than 100 volume books. Very very thick books are there. Thousands of papers are there based on his writings. It is collection of Gandhiji's writing. So every day he used to write something. Every day, newspapers were there, magazines were there. The way he interacted with people, his messages he used to disseminate among the masses. So that is a must for him. The important thing is, I already told this twice, that this theory believes that leadership traits are inherited and cannot be learned. And that is actually one of the biggest problem of this theory. We assume here that we cannot train a leader. We can only adopt a leader. According to this theory, the traits what commonly associated with great leaderships are like adaptability and flexibility. The person must be adaptable and flexible. It doesn't mean that I decided I will do this and I will do it whatever be the case. No, if situation changes, if say time demands, then I need to change accordingly. I should be flexible in my thinking. I should be flexible in my planning. But it doesn't mean that every time I change it. Assertiveness should be there. So he should be assertive, but it should not be very pushy. He should not be very aggressive. Assertiveness doesn't mean aggressiveness. Capability to motivate people. He should be having capability to motivate. If a leader is not motivator, then he cannot be a leader actually. So motivation is a must there. Courage and resolution. He must be courageous. He must be brave in taking some thinking out of the box, taking some decisions which are not very common. Some serious decisions he should be able to take. He must be possessing some creativity in himself, and not only he should have creativity in himself, he should be able to foster creativity among their followers also. Then decisiveness. He must be able to take decisions, quick decisions with confidence. Different ways of there are there for taking decisions, but whatever be the way, a democratic way or autocratic way or somewhere, but he should be able to take decision. He should be eager to accept responsibility. If a person keeps on escaping from the responsibility, he cannot be a leader. A person should be there to lead from the front. He should be able, he should be ready to initiate. Then emotional stability must be there. Intelligence and action-oriented judgment should be there. Need for achievement must be there. These points we know, so I'm going a little fast. He must be very good communicator. I'm thinking very well, my thoughts are very good, but I'm unable to communicate it. I cannot translate my feelings into words, and that words are not motivational. It is not reaching to the masses. Then I cannot be accepted as a leader. So a leader must be very good communicator. See, just go through the writings of APJ Abdul Kalam. A very great writer actually is. And because of that only, he's also considered as a great leader for India. He was able to explain what he wants to achieve or what he wants to convey. And that becomes a very, very important factor. Then determination must be there. Self-confidence, I already told, unless I'm confident in myself, I cannot lead people. A person is not confident in himself, he cannot be leading from the front. Then he should be technically skilled. He must be knowing the trade, the trade he's talking about. If he suppose he is working is a manager of a automobile industry, so he should be having basic information about automobile engineering. He may not be expert in that field, but basic information he must be having. Then only he can lead from the front. Unless he knows, he cannot influence others to work further. He must be trustworthy. He must be able to understand followers' needs. Unless I understand their needs, I cannot lead. And empathy should be there. He should be able to understand feelings of their subordinates. That is very, very important thing, to touch the heart, not just shake hand. Shake hand, sometimes we do without any feeling. Nowadays, we are not doing actually shake hand also. But shake hand is a different thing. I should be able to touch the heart. I should be able to understand what you are thinking. Then only I can influence you. There are some criticism of this theory, like many of the studies have proved that trait theory cannot hold good for all set of circumstances. In different circumstances, it fails. Person with same traits, very successful in one particular situation, but other situation comes and he fails. The list of traits is not uniform. What some 10, 15 we have seen just now, these are just selective ones. And these are not given by one study. There are different studies and they have developed many other traits. So a variety of traits are there. So which one to follow? Which one is not important? Which one is more important? It is difficult to decide. So it is difficult actually to really enlist all the traits in ascending or descending order. Then how to judge? It fails to take into account influence of other factors on leadership. It is not only traits which decides. Traits are very important things. It must be a very good important thing. But there are many other factors which also influences. But this theory negates that. It says only traits are important for a good leader. There have been leaders who doesn't have these traits. Whatever we have seen and others, what other studies are telling, they're having these, doesn't have these traits, but they are still considered as good leaders. And vice versa. There are people who are having these traits, but still they are not very good leaders. So it is not only possessing the traits, how we exhibit, how we show it, how we lead, that is more important. And these things are missing in this theory. And let's see something on behavioral theory. Why we are going to behavioral theory? Because trait theory was unable to address certain things, what we saw in the previous slide, the shortcomings or criticism of the trait theory. That okay, so we were talking about behavioral theory. So let's continue from where we left. So behavioral theory focuses on the actual behavior and action of leaders instead of their personal qualities. Whether they are having this quality or having that quality or not having this or that quality, we don't focus on those qualities. We focus under this theory is how he behaves in this situation, how he behaves when this kind of things are happening. So his behavior and his actions are important here. This theory emphasizes on what the leaders do and how they behave to become effective leader. How they do, how they perform, how they interact with people. So their behavior, their activities. According to trait theory, leadership is inherited. People by birth, they get those traits. But according to behavioral theory, leadership can be learned, and that is important thing. Trait theory said that you cannot learn leadership. But behavioral theory says that people may be trained. Unless I can train a person into a leader, what is the point of having courses like MBA or many other courses like that? What we are doing under those things are, we are trying to train a good leader, isn't it? So leadership can be taught. So trait theory was not accepting this fact, but behavioral theory recognizes this fact. Then attempts have been made to identify dimensions of leaders' behavior in many places. But during mid-20th century, last century, In USA, in Ohio State University and University of Michigan, many studies, a number of studies were conducted. So let's see some theories, finding of some study from Ohio State University. In 1945, Bureau of Business Research in the Ohio State University, they conducted many studies, and the main objective of all those studies was to identify the major dimension of leadership, what are the major things under leadership, and to investigate the effects of leaders' behavior, how leaders' behavior affects employees' behavior and employees' satisfaction. So leaders' behavior and its influence on employees' behavior and their satisfaction. So ultimately, all those studies finally narrowed down to 2 points: initiating structure and consideration. Now, what is these two things? Initiative structure means it defines and organizes relationship between himself and members of the group to whom he is leading, the leader is leading. It establishes well-defined pattern of organization. There should be a pattern in organization, develop channels of communication in different ways. He should be communicating to the subordinates and co-workers, and the methods and the procedures he used for those things, and to supervise the activities of employees. And then under consideration, there are some characteristics, behavior characteristics like friendliness. Leader should be friendly. I should feel free to meet him. If I am very much afraid of him, I will not go to meet him, and I will not inform him about the problems I am facing, and certainly I will not be satisfied with him. So friendliness is very, very important. Mutual trust should be there. I should be trusting in my leader, and leader should have trust in me. Respect should be there, mutual respect. I should respect my leader, and leader should also respect his followers. Supportiveness must be supportive. Openness should be there. If I disagree, I should be allowed to speak about my disagreement. I will not take any political example at this point, but this openness is a problem nowadays. There are many parties who are not ready to listen to anything which is going against the decision they have already taken. I'm not taking any name of any party. And concern for the welfare of the employee. Employees' welfare is also important there. Then situational theory. After behavioral theory, situational theory. That is a third kind of theory. This situational theory behavioral theory says that how people behave. Trait theory identify traits. These leaders should have these much traits. So same person having same traits, gets success in one situation and failed in another situation. Okay. Behavioral theory says behavior patterns. So I behave in same way, but I'm getting different kind of results. Why I'm getting different kind of results? It is because of the situation. The conditions are different. If conditions are different, my same behavior will not work. So because of that concept, this situational theory came. This theory, which is also known as contingency leadership theory, focuses on the context of a leader. These theories look at the situational effect of the success or failure of a leader. What situations are there when a person is getting success, or what situations are there why people fail in leading. A leader's effectiveness is directly determined by the situational context, while a leader's personality is a small factor in that success. His personality is important, obviously it is important, but it is not that important. The thing is how this situation comes and how I face that situation. That is more important. This theory takes the specific leadership style and suggests that good leaders can adjust their leadership style situationally. So when situation comes, a good leader will change its style, adapt new style, and then he will be able to handle that situation. Trait theory, if I'm not having that trait, I cannot inject it in my blood. I will fail. If that kind of trait is required in this situation, I will fail because I don't have that trait, as per trait theory. Behavioral theory is telling only my behavior should be like this to get success. Same behavior in different situations may not function. So situational theory says that good leaders can adapt the situation. They can change their leadership style if situation changes. It also suggests that it may be the best to find the right kind of leader for a specific situation. It is always better, it is always advisable to find the right kind of leader for a specific situation. Okay, am I audible, Trim?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
okay. So I think some network problem is coming. Audio is
Uh,
coming and going. Okay,
yes, yes,
okay.
yes.
So type of contingency theory, there are some contingency theory names are given here, Hersey and Blenchen's situational theory, Evans and House path and goal theory. So these theories are there. For further details, you can search these theories. Now, this Ohio State University research has given four situational variables that affect the performance. First is cultural environment. The cultural environment of the leader, or the cultural environment of that setup where that leader is functioning. That is one of the factor which defines a leadership. Culture is a man-made system. We, and all together we form a culture. So how this culture is going to influence me? My many aspects of the life have a significant influence on our behavior, our understanding of employees' behavior. So that situation is important. So one of the factor is cultural environment. Then second is differences between individuals. Different people are having different style, what we call individual difference. So that differences will be there in leadership style also. So human behavior is caused by some combination of factors like aptitudes, personality characteristics, physical characteristics, interest, motivation, age, gender, education, experience, and many more such things. So individuals' characteristics affect the leadership process. My characteristic will direct or will influence my leadership style, and your individual characteristics will lead or you influence your style. But yes, I can change, I can modify my characteristics, I can learn the things. That is possible. The some persons may perceive a particular leadership style suitable while others may have a different perception. I will see leadership styles later on. So there are some people who like autocratic way of leadership, and there are some people who like democratic way of leadership. Both are right. They are having their personality. Their liking is there. So accordingly, it happens. So second thing was difference between individual differences. Then third is differences between jobs. Different jobs requires different kind of leadership. So that difference in job is one of the important thing in deciding what kind of person, what kind of leaders should be there. And basically there are four factors: economic, legal, personal, and social. So all different conditions influence leadership behavior differently. Economic conditions, legal conditions, these differently they will, but these things are going to decide overall job. And then differences between organizations, different organizations are having different setup, and same person, if he is leading organization A, he may be very successful in the same situation, and same person when he starts working for organization B for same problem, he fails. Reason is the organizational setup. The same organization, if you think of two universities, compare same. There are many examples like this. A VC in a university is very successful, and same person when he becomes VC in a different university, he will not be that much successful. What made the change? The person is same, with same traits, with same behavior, with same situation also. Not the same situation, but same problems. But situation is different. A different kind of setup is there, different organizational setup is there, and he cannot adapt with that, and then that's why he or she is not that much successful. So organizational setup is also important in that. Now let's see some criticism. This theory is also not free from criticism. So this theory focuses on the ability of the leader in a given situation. In this situation he fails, or in this situation he succeeded. So this theory fails to answer if the leader will be successful in a different situation or not. In situation A, I am very, very successful. But whether I am able to take up situation B or not, this theory fails to answer that. But trait theory was telling that if you are having traits of leadership, you will be successful. Okay, if your behavior is set of behavior is good, then you will be getting some success as per those two theories. But this theory fails to answer what if a different situation comes. So we cannot prepare ourselves in advance. Various organizational factors become helpful or problematic to a great extent. As example I gave earlier, same person, vice chancellor of one university, and then when he becomes VC of another university, his may get success, he may not get success. Then contingency theory focuses on the importance of a situation, particular situation, but may not focus enough on the psychology of the employee or the company itself, how people behave. A leader is there to lead, but people, the followers are not there to follow, then he will fail in that case. That is the quality of leader, to influence that kind of group of people, and then he can take it further. That is possible, but that will take a time, long time will be there. And this theory doesn't pay any attention to psychological factors. It also may not focus enough on how leadership style can change over time. Leadership style changes over time, and it fails to focus all those things. The theory fails to address most important point, and that is how to develop good leader in the organization. Why so? Trait theory already assumed that you cannot train. Finished. Behavioral theory told that you can teach, you can train a leader. This theory indirectly is telling that you cannot develop a good leader in an organization. Reason is we don't know after 2 years which kind of situation will come. No one of us was knowing in last year December that what kind of pandemic is coming and what kind of things, what kind of situation will change, how we will adapt. So this theory says that doesn't say anything about that kind of training. Okay, who was knowing, who was thinking that this kind of online teaching is possible? Who was knowing that FDP online is possible? I don't know about you, but I was not about at all thinking about these things. Now we are, Zoom app has become one of the part of our life. On a daily basis, we are using it. But 6 months back or 8 months back, or up to December last year, I was not even heard this name, Zoom. Zoom was there earlier that also, but I was not even aware of this. So that is the problem with this theory, that it doesn't assume that what situation will come in future and how the person will treat with that. So that is the biggest problem with this trait theory. Now let's see some leadership styles. How people lead, how different people are leading differently. So a long thing is there, no need to go for all those things. We know what are the leadership styles. We can classify all those styles under broadly 3 categories. There may be some more categories in between. These 3 broader categories there: autocratic, participative, and free rein leadership or laissez-faire leadership. So broadly these 3 are there. Now how these 3 are going to be decided? Those are going to be decided by the dimensions, the power dimensions. Power dimension means what kind of authority I want to hold in my hand as a leader, or how much authority I am ready to delegate to others. So that power dimension is very, very important. How much power I want to control. Then orientation. My policies are employee oriented or task oriented, or motivational factors. Different people, different leaders are having different way of motivation. It may be reward, positive. It may be punishment, negative. So motivations are there, positive and negative. Different people adapt different ways. Theory X and theory Y. Some people go for theory X, some people go for theory Y. However, such a classification may not be strict, because in particular classification, some elements of other classification may appear. Some overlapping things may be there. Okay. Let's go further. Let's see autocratic style. There may be broadly three kind of autocratic style. Autocratic, we know, power hungry person who wants to control everything, issues directives from the top, and others are supposed to follow all those directives, all those decisions. What is already taken at the top is supposed to be followed by all the followers. So there may be three kind of autocratic leadership broadly. First thing is a strict autocrat. Strict autocrats means a person who is very strict in his behavior. Strict means usually the person who are very strict in behavior, autocratic style, they usually take negative motivational, means penalty, punishments are major things in their hand. So by terrorizing people, they want to get the work done. They impose penalty, they give punishment. So because of fear of the punishment, the subordinates will start working, theory X kind of thing. Okay, then there may be some moderate autocrats. Moderate autocrats are not that strict. They are not that negative in their approach. They are autocrats. They want to hold all power. They want to take decisions themselves. They want to implement those decisions. Whatever they decide, they want that everyone should follow that thing. This thing is there. But the way they implement is not that strict. They are taking positive motivational things. Instead of punishment, they give reward who are performing well. So a positive outlook is there, a positive way of implementation of autocratic decisions are there. And people like this kind of, out of these all three autocratic style, this thing is more preferred. Okay, because in autocratic system, one good thing is that decisions are being taken by the top people and followers are supposed to follow all those things. So a decision process is already going on at the top management. So that is the employees under them are not supposed to bother much about the decision. They only have to perform. And if they perform well, they get reward. They are satisfied. They're getting more satisfaction under this kind of setup than the previous strict one. By punishment, that doesn't motivate people. And incompetent autocrats there are some autocrats who just want to show authority just to hide their incompetence. If you allow everyone to speak, then someone will ask something which you are unable to answer, or that situation will come when your incompetency will be exhibited. It will be known to everyone. So I follow a style where no one questions, where no one asks anything, where no one is allowed to do anything. Punishment is there, negative approach is there. So that is just to hide the incompetency of the leader. But this doesn't go for long period. It is there for short period only. Let's take next. The advantages of autocratic style or autocratic technique is there are many subordinates in the organization who prefer to work under centralized authority. Centralized authority means I am getting order from one authority, you are also getting from same authority, and everyone is getting from same authority. I am responsible to deliver accordingly. So some people like this kind of thing. Otherwise, what happens? There are 10 heads. I am responsible to head one. You are responsible to head two. Different heads. Their different perceptions are there. I may like my head, or I may not dislike my head, or I may like some other head. So that kind of confusion is not there under autocratic. Only one head is there, and all instructions from him. So no confusion on that line. It provides a strong motivation and reward to a manager exercising this style. It is more rewarding for the leader and not for organization, not for employees. It is for leader. Leaders are more strongly motivated, reward oriented, because they are getting everything, all decisions they are taking. Okay, so if anything good is happening, they feel it is because of them. If anything bad happens, they may feel that because subordinates have not done the work properly, so it is because of that. So they feel it better. It permits very quick decisions. Why? Because one person is taking decision, or a very small group of people are taking all decisions. So a situation comes, a meeting will be called, they discuss, a decision is taken, or in many cases, single person is taking decision. So situation comes, he takes the decisions and spread the information, others are there to follow. So decision taking process is very, very fast in this. And less competent subordinates also have scope to work in this kind of organization. Less competent, they cannot contribute in management. They are not having that much competency to take decisions, to analyze the things, analyze the situation, to apply their mind. If they are not that much competent, still they can work because they are not supposed to do this. They are receiving order from top, they have simply have to perform. So those people will also enjoy this kind of setup. But the shortcomings are there, disadvantages are there. People in the organization dislike it, especially when it becomes strict. This kind of style actually fails in motivation. Motivation level is low in this, frustration level is high, low morale is there, conflicts are also there. People are liking, people are disliking. That kind of situation will come under this kind of leadership. There is more dependence and less individuality in the organization. Everyone depends on the top management for decisions. So individuality is missing there. And this is because future leaders in the organization do not develop. You are not allowed to take your decisions, how or who will succeed, who will be taking over the organization after this leader. That is not taken care of. So one person is taking all decisions and others are not allowed to speak. So they are not exercising their knowledge, they are not taking any decisions, they are not motivated to do this. So they will not develop. And a day will come when this leader will go and there is no leader behind it. Okay. So considering these all factors, actually autocratic style is not considered suitable for any organization in general. Now participative leadership, or sometimes it is also called democratic leadership, where a group of people will take decision. And all the decisions, it is not centered in the hand of the head of the department, head of the organization. A group of people, a different all chain is there, and everyone collectively they take decision, and all those decisions will be implemented. Now, what happens? What good thing happens here is everyone is part of this decision. I have taken this decision with all my colleagues and all my superiors and subordinates. Everyone is involved there. So I feel it is my decision. So I will try to make all efforts so that my decision is proved correct. So in the way I will be motivated to work more so that the objectives or the targets set will be achieved. Okay, so that is the participative learning. Now, benefits of real participative management, it is highly motivating. Reason I told, because I have taken this decision, so I will be motivated to work for this. The employee's productivity is high because I'm applying myself for all those things. They share the responsibility with the superior. So failure and success both are for me and for my superior and my subordinate, my colleagues. All are equally responsible for that. And then all of us are trying to achieve that thing. So responsibility, everyone is taking up responsibility. It provides organizational stability in raising morale and attitude of employees. And it helps to develop future leader also, because everyone is getting an opportunity to exhibit their ability to lead. And in the process, organization is able to identify who may be future leader and can be trained, can be built in that way. Then limitations are there. Complex nature of organization require a thorough understanding of its problem. With lower level employees may not be able to do that. At top level, they know whole of the organization properly. If an organization is there with many offices in different cities, different countries, or maybe many places, so an employee working in a small factory may not be able to see the whole picture, global picture of the organization. So he may not be that effective in taking decision, but top management is having that thing. So in that case, top management may be having upper hand in taking decisions. Some people in the organization want minimum interaction with their subordinates or superiors or associates. For them, participation technique is discouraged. They don't like this because they don't want to interact with them, others. So those people may not be liking this. Participation can be used strictly to manipulate employees. That is a bigger problem here. Politics, what we used to call in our usual talk, politics. Being ahead, I want to put up some agenda and I want to get it passed. How I can do it? I will try to influence the members of the group, the person who are sitting in that group. So a political affair, and I will try to meet people separately. I will try to convince them so that he supports my proposal, and that's why he gone through. So by some wrong means, I will try to take that decision. So manipulation is possible in that kind of way. Okay. Now, free reign means everything is free, open, laissez-faire method. Um, the top management is there to identify the bigger objectives, bigger tasks, and the bigger path how to follow, and then everything is left on the subordinates to follow how they are doing. Top management will not at all interfere in that. Everything is left in the hand of the employees to work for. The top management only decides the main objectives, the main course of action, and that's all. And then the top management will be involved only in providing the facilities, the requirements, interacting with outer world, but they don't interfere in the day-to-day life of the workers. This type of situation, this type of style is suitable to certain situations where manager can leave a chance, choice to the group where it is possible, where all employees are of that quality, then it may be good. But otherwise, it is not advisable to leave everything without a mandate. Now, Leichert's management style, Rensis Leichert, we know, is from University of Michigan, USA. So he made some studies on patterns of styles of managers in a very long period, 3 decades, and then he's developed some approach, some management system under that. In his management system, he tried to identify some 4 systems. So we'll see that 4 systems here. Those 4 systems are exploitative autocrats or strict autocrats, system 1, liberal autocrats, system 2, participative, system 3, and democratic, system 4. So after classifying all managers under these 4 categories, he identified, or he studied, or he concluded that in most of the organization, system 4, that is democratic, works better than others. Now, what are those 4 systems, and what are those, how to judge it, how to identify it? For that, he has given some table. Let's see that table. Leichert system of management leadership, developed by Leichert, Rensis Leichert. These 4 systems are there: strict autocratic, liberal autocratic, participative, and democratic. And we'll see these 4 systems on these 3 criterion: trust and confidence in subordinates, how leader believes in the subordinates, subordinates feeling of the freedom, how subordinates, the workers, are feeling about their freedom, and superiors seeking involvement from the subordinates, how much involvement superiors are taking from the others. So let's see one by one. Strict autocrats has no trust and confidence in subordinates. They don't believe in subordinates. They think that only they know everything and only they can do the things right. So they don't have any confidence in subordinates. Liberal autocrats have condensing confidence and trust in subordinates, such as master has a servant, master-servant kind of relationship is there. As a master believes in servant, in the same way the top management believes in the employees. Participative system. Under this, substantial but not complete confidence and trust. Good confidence is there, but not complete. Still wishes to keep control of decisions. He wants to take his decisions, but still he is having some relaxation, some participation is there, but main agenda is being produced by the top management. And then democratic style, that is complete and confidence is there, and trust in all matters. In everything, they trust. So these are four systems and how they differ from each other. Let's go for subordinates feeling, how subordinates feel. So under system one, that is strict autocratic method, subordinates do not feel at all free to discuss things about the job with the supervisor. They don't believe at all. They don't have any right to discuss actually. They don't have anything to say to the top management. Whatever orders are coming, they're supposed to follow. Under system two, subordinates do not feel very free to discuss things about job with their supervisor. But up to some extent, they can express their willingness, their happiness, or their sadness, whatever, up to some extent. In strict autocratic, no possibility, no, the words will not be listened. Under liberal autocratic style, up to some extent, they can express their feelings. Under participative, subordinates feel rather free to discuss things about the job with their supervisors. So they talk about their problems. And if it is democratic style, subordinates feel completely free to discuss things about the job with their supervisors. So democratic style is that everyone is having a right to be heard by the top management. If they are not happy with certain decision, they are having a right or they are having an opportunity to exhibit that. That is very, very important to create motivation. Now let's see superiors seeking involvement from the subordinates. From strict autocrats, they seldom gets idea and opinion of subordinates. They never ask about any decision. If it is liberal autocrat, sometimes gets idea and opinion of subordinates, but not very regular affair. Occasionally it happens. Under participative, usually gets idea and opinions because decisions are going to be taken on participative method. There are a group of people who are going to take decision for others. So that group at least is able to present their views. So up to some extent, they discuss about this. But democratic style always gets idea and opinion and always tries to make constructive use of them because it is based on the discussion only. This democratic style, who is taking decision? It is not the top authority. Not all the people are at all the level they are involved in taking decision. So everyone is having a chance to speak, present their opinion, and then that will be discussed. And whatever good is there, the decision will be taken gradually. But everyone will be having a choice, a chance to present their views, their opinion before that final decision is being taken. So if you see the last one, democratic style, under democratic style, superior is having full trust in the subordinates. Subordinates feel free. They're having a feeling of freedom that they can exhibit. If they are not happy with them, they can exhibit it. And superiors are taking opinion of subordinates in each decision-making process. So that's why this democratic system, if you see, it is more motivating. You are involved in every decision of the organization. And if you are involved in decision-making process, then you must be taking extra effort to make that decision correct. And then altogether, everyone will be working for the greater success of the organization. And finally, the organization will be successful. So most of the objectives of the organization can be fulfilled if it is democratic in nature. If it is strict autocratic, subordinates, there is a very big gap between subordinates and superiors. The top management and the employees, a big gap is there. No communication between them. So the top management don't know how effective the employees are. There must be some employees who are very effective. They can contribute a lot in decision-making process, but those people are not given any importance if it is autocratic, strict autocratic style. Because top management is not talking with the other person and they don't know this kind of person is there in the organization. So those people will miss that kind of opinion. Okay, so if you see all those four systems, democratic as Likert also identified after making the study of 3 decades, very fairly long period, that democratic style is the style under which success is chances of success is more as compared to others. Okay, let's go further. Okay, if we talk about leadership and if we don't take example of APJ, that lecture will not be complete, isn't it? So we know many things about APJ. He was a very good leader. But in one of his interview, he gave very good example of what kind of leader should be there. What kind of leader? I'm not talking about his leadership. I'm talking about his own leader. When he was as director of satellite launch vehicle, he talked about 1979 when he was making a satellite launch vehicle, and he was in charge of that. He was director of that division, and his mission failed. He was sending the satellite in the orbit, but instead of sending it in orbit, it actually went in Bay of Bengal. It crashed. Before that launch, as APJ himself mentioned in an interview, he told that before that launch, he and his teammates, they were knowing that there was a small leakage in the fuel system of that vehicle. They were knowing it, but they underestimated that, and they thought that that leakage is very less, and even along with that leakage, still that can be SLV can be launched properly. But their calculation was not correct. It was not that accurate, and that leakage was actually more than what they assumed. And because of that, whole vehicle launch system failed. It was big loss for the organization, for the country. He was very sad about that. At that time, Mr. Satish Dhawan was chairman of ISRO. He called him, took it to that press conference, for press briefing, and he did not allow them to Kalam Sahab to speak anything. He himself told that we failed. It is not he failed. He told we failed. Satish Dhawan told we failed. But I have a very good trust in my team, and next time they must get success. Now, with this, APJ, he mentioned that he was surprised by this. This happened in a press conference, live press conference, and he told that he was surprised that mistake was committed by his team, APJ's team. But ISRO chairman took whole responsibility of that failure and showed trust in his team because he was knowing that this team is efficient. A small mistake was there is okay, but if they keep on working, they will get success for sure. And that trust he showed in him. Within 1 year, another that satellite was launched, successfully launched by the same team under the directorship of APJ, Honorable APJ. It was successfully launched, and now the time came for press conference, press briefing, and now again Satish Dhawan sir came and told APJ, go and face the press conference. Without me, I am not going to be there. You do it. Another surprise for APJ sir, that when he failed, his leader accepted as his own mistake. And when he got success, his leader told that you take all praises for that success. There at the time of failure and give credit to all good things to the person who is really performing this. So actually, this story was told by APJ sir himself about his leader. Why I am putting this here is it is always important, it is most important thing to develop next leadership. If Satish Dhawan has punished APJ at that stage, 1979, he might not have launched another vehicle in 1980 successfully. He might not have become Missile Man of India, and he might not have become President of India. Successful, one of the most successful and respected President of India, isn't it? All these happened because he got a leader in Mr. Satish Dhawan. So leadership is not only for leading people, they should identify the future leaders also. And that is very, very important thing. And this all incidents only just to highlight why it is important to identify future leaders. Okay, now how to do it? There are certain ways to identify our future leaders. So there is one of the way which is very, very popular is 9-box performance potential matrix. 9-box performance potential matrix. So this is 9 boxes are there, 1 till 9. On left side, leadership potentials are being given in 3 categories. Lower is limited, moderate, and then higher. And on lower side, it is given performance of the employees, and it is given under 3 categories: poor, good, and outstanding. Okay, so this side is leadership potential, how much is the potential of the employees and how they are performing at the present. What we are trying to, or what we have to do is we should try to go in this direction, further place, higher and further from this box, this place. Okay, so these 9 boxes are there, and we are supposed to judge each and every employees under these 9 boxes. What these 9 boxes are telling? First thing is performance. Performance is given on the lower side, poor, good, or outstanding. It is on the criterion of technical skills, ability, subject matter knowledge in job related fields, ability to develop and maintain working relationships. So it is all about how they perform the task they have been given. No leadership. It is talking about how they are performing their job, the assigned job. On this side, left side is given potential. How potential it is. How much is the potential of the person? Is limited, moderate, or high. The ability to or capacity for growth and development into a leadership role. How much potential he is having. And we are talking about the leader. One who guides or directs or influences and shows the way to others. Okay, so actually we are supposed to focus on these 4 items, these 4 group of people. Actually these people are already in a leading job. They are actually leading the organization. The blue one, it is marked as A1, 1A. These are already the leaders. These 3 are potential leaders. Broadly these 2, 1B and 2A. These 2 are the potential leaders. They should be under observation all the time, and they should be given higher opportunities to perform, and then only they can then they will be able to upgrade their skills and they can perform well. This also is going to take chance after some time. He needs some time to become either 1B or 2A, but after some time he will be under that. So he should also be under observation. These peoples are there, and they should also be given chances to change their potential or improve their performance. These people, 3A person under this, may be supervisors for some divisions. They are very good in skill. They are very, very skilled, but they are unable to lead. So they can be leading for small units, not for the whole organization. But gradually, if they get more chances, they can upgrade them. Okay, so let's see all these 9 boxes one by one. First thing is, the first box 1A is outstanding performance and high potential. He's performing outstandingly, and his performance also is very good. Okay, how to identify these kind of people? They are consistently performing above the current scope of his job. Whatever job is given, they are doing more than that, much more than that. They excels when they are given additional assignments. Top leaders consistently integrates behaviors associated with values, displays behavior linked with competencies. They consistently seek new opportunities for learning, leadership development, and advanced experience. They want that organization should give more and more work to them so that they can show their talent. They demonstrate systems thinking and agency impact. They place team success above personal success. They give more importance to the team than to their own self. Then next is 2A is outstanding performance and moderate potential. How to identify these kind of people? These are the people for whom we are actually seeing for the future. In next 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, in the short term, they will be in position to take greater responsibility of leadership. So they must be under the focus, current focus. How to perform? How to identify these kind of people? They are performing above expectation. Whatever expectation, they are doing more than that. But manager is not certain about his capability to handle increased scope of the complexity. If more complex works are given, that manager who is dealing with this kind of people, he is not very much sure how much he can take. So give some opportunity, give more complex works to them and see how they are performing. See some kind of situation where they can lead others and check them. In next sometime they may be among the top leaders of the organization. They seek opportunities to improve both self and organization. They want to improve their own skill. And in the way they are improving the organization also. They show understanding of organizational mission values and core competencies. Then third group is outstanding performance but limited potential. They are performing excellently. Whatever work is given to them, they are doing very well. But their leadership qualities are not that much improved. They need some time, but they can be given greater responsibility in a year time or little more than that, because they are excellent in working. Whatever is given excellently they are doing, they are overperforming. But only thing missing is they are unable to lead others. Give some opportunity to them so that they can learn leading capacities also. So performing at or above expectation, has not outgrown himself current job and has growth potential opportunities within him. Seasoned professional with technical skills who does not currently exhibit capacity or desire for leadership development. They are either they have not been given opportunity or they are not exhibiting that interest in leadership style, but they are excellent skilled person. So they can start getting some supervisory job at lower level, then little increase in that. Okay, let's go to the fourth one. 1B, good performance and high potential. They are performing very well and their potential also is very high. How to identify these kind of people? In next 1 or 2 years, they may be in position to take leading leadership position in the organization. How to identify? They are solid performers. They are performing very well and they meet the expectation. Whatever is expected, they meet that. A valued contributor to the team. They contribute. Demonstrate capacity for advancement. They want more opportunities to work so that they can advance further. They frequently demonstrate behaviors associated with values and core competencies. What competencies they show it, and frequently seek out new tasks, projects, and opportunities for growth. They are ready to take, ready to initiate. They are happily asking for the new job to perform. Next box is good performance and moderate potential. They're performing well and moderate potential of leadership is there. In next 2 years or so, they may be in position to be in the top or leading managers of the organization who are good performance and who have shown moderate potential. Okay, so how to identify these people? Individual is currently meeting expectations, solid performer, consistent technical performance is there. May lack demonstrated strategic thinking or relationship skills. May need additional time in current role. Give a little more time in the current role and they will excel. Minimally express interest in expanding opportunities. They are not showing their interest, but if given the opportunity, they may perform. And they demonstrate behavior associated with values and core competencies and are not that much consistent in that. So given the opportunity, they can be excelling. Now the sixth box, 3B, it is good performance but limited potential. They are performing good, but they are not showing any potential of leadership. How to identify? In next 2 years, they may be going, if given the chance, more opportunity, they may be increasing their skill level. They may be improving their skills. So how to identify those people? It is currently meeting expectations. They are dependable. You can rely on that. Currently performing up to his or her potential. If current role changed or expanded in scope, responsibility may exceed his individual's capacity at this time. Demonstrated behaviors associated with values and core competencies, and does not exhibit interest in additional responsibility and leadership. They are not showing any interest for the leadership. They are not asking for any additional job where they can lead others. They are happy with their leaders, they are performing their work, and they are good. But if they have been given some chance of leading a smaller groups, who knows, they may be having the potential, but they are not exhibiting it. They are not asking for this. But if this chance is given, they may start exhibiting that potential for leadership also. So they need some opportunity and chance should be taken to improve them. Then next step, next box 1C is poor performance. They are not doing very well, but potential of leadership is there. How to identify them? They does not consistently perform to technical expectations. Poorly performing, just how they are fulfilling their work only. Beginning to demonstrate understanding of how organization operates. Who knows how organization operates is this is work of the management, the top organization, management of the organization. They know how this organization is working. If it is a multinational company, in different countries, different strategies they are having. This kind of people, they are may not be working very well. Their performance may not be that good, but they understand how in given situation this organization is working differently in a country in this way, in different country in this way. So these people are knowing this kind of skills, but what they miss is they are not able to perform their own work. So give some chance to them to work, to acquire new skill, to learn new skill, and then only they can be a better employees. First thing is our basic performance, whether we are performing well or not. So first thing is that after that only this leadership will come. A person who is not performing at all, and if he is made leader, he may be a good leader, but he cannot set examples for others. So these kind of people first given chance by motivational factors, positive motivational factors, so that they learn more skills, they improve their skill set, and then only they will be better in the situation. They seek opportunities for improvement and maybe new in the role or new to the organization. This may be a reason. They are new in the organization. That's why they don't know much. They are not exhibiting it much. That may be a reason. So give some more time to them to settle down in the new organization or in the new job, and then they will certainly learn it and they will improve their skills. Okay. Then eighth box is poor performance and moderate potential. Not performing well, and leadership also is moderate. How to identify these people? They may be less than 6 months in position. They may be very new in the organization or in that post. Longer term employees, there may be some longer term employees also, but who has not progressed or adapted to change within the organization. Working since long, but they are not adopting new skills. They are not applying their skills to improve their skills, to perform. They fail in that. And they demonstrate understanding of how the division operates. They don't know the overall picture, but their division, they are very good. They understand how this division is working. And the last one, the ninth is poor performance and limited potential. They are not performing well, and their potential of leadership is also missing. How to identify these people is consistently underperformance. They are not hitting the target ever. Having trouble keeping up with the demands of the current role, whatever they are basic requirements they are unable to fulfill. Infrequently demonstrate the behaviors of values and core competency. Not always, occasionally, sometime only competencies they are showing, not always. And they are unwilling to take any additional responsibility. They want to escape from the responsibility. So these people are very difficult to handle with. Some maybe some X theory may be applied on them, maybe some punishment, or maybe some rewards, small targets, and then only their position may be changed. So these 9 boxes, organizations should try to see the whole organization into these 9 boxes, all implies under these 9 boxes, and the 4 boxes, the center and the top 4 boxes, they should try to focus on these 4 boxes. This is already in the leading position, as I told, and these are the potentials. They will be very soon reaching to the top level, especially this person, because technically he is very solid and he understands working also. He's having leadership capabilities. So if his leadership capabilities are being improved, targeted, then he may go to this box. Okay, this person may be given chance to lead the division, small divisions, so that some leadership skill may be learned by him, because he is technically he is strong, he knows his work. Now leadership is missing, so that can be taught like this. So in this box we can deal different kind of person. I think I'm exceeding now time. I will not take much time now. Now some success stories are there. We must have read this in different places. Redbus, you might be knowing these about this Redbus, online booking of bus service, bus tickets. These 3 person actually developed this organization. Phanindra Sama, Sudhakar, and Charan. Phanindra Sharma was the main person behind the idea. These all are from BITS Pilani pass outs. The story behind this is they founded this organization in August 2006. The story is just before this 2005 Diwali time, Deepavali time. This Phanindra Sama was trying to travel from Bangalore to Hyderabad by bus during vacation period, this festival period. He traveled whole of the city to search for a one ticket, bus ticket, and he was unable to get that ticket. And then he realized what he had to do is he has to go to each of the counter of bus and identify whether any vacancy is there on that desired date or not. And he was unable to get a ticket. Then he realized in the process, when he visited hundreds of bus counters, booking counters, he realized that all these bus counters are working in an isolation. They don't know each other. Actually, they are booking same bus, but they don't know each other. How much is price for this seat, or how much price is for that seat, or what is the timing of the real bus, how many seats already booked. These all things they are doing in isolation. Over phone they call and then they book and all those things. So it was going in very, very disorganized way. So after this experience, this setback, he couldn't go to Hyderabad during this vacation festive period. But this idea came to his mind. He discussed with other 2 friends of his on this idea. Surprisingly, all these 3, they were working in some organization already. They were highly better paid organization they were working. They left their job. They were engineers. They left their job and they started working on this project. It takes some time. It started in 2006 August, 7-8 months without job. They had some other problems also they had, but finally they established it. And a year back or so, they were having more than 10,000 buses in their website. They're having more than 700 trip organizers, operators listed on their organization. They're working in 15 states, and they are booking 5,000 tickets per day. Not in this pandemic period for sure. Before that, they were booking 5,000 tickets per day. This is leadership. He identified a problem, an opportunity. He grabbed that, applied that, left the job, completely worked for this developing this, and excelled. It's not one person. Ola, Bhavesh Agarwal and Ankit Bhatti. If you have to go somewhere, what we do is we take our mobile out, Ola, and we book in 5 minutes, taxi will come to us. And it has made actually the traveling within city very, very comfortable, very, very easy. Earlier, you have to go to taxi stand to get a taxi. Now taxi is coming at your home. Then they extended this taxi to auto also. Ola Auto they started running for a small distance for small cities. Then they started Ola Bike also. Now two-wheeler also is coming on Ola. Book on mobile. It is one of the cheapest service in the city if you search, if you compare taxi fares. How this idea came out of these two, actually this main idea is from Bhavesh Agarwal. He was trying to travel from Bandipur to Bangalore. Bandipur is in Karnataka, some 300 kilometers from Bangalore. So he was traveling from Bandipur to Bangalore by a taxi. In the way, the taxi driver stopped the taxi and started bargaining to increase the fare. What they settled earlier, he wanted the taxi driver started to bargain for higher. They couldn't settle. What happened is that taxi driver made him get out of the taxi in the way, midway, and he went away, left the taxi. And he was there on the road without any vehicle to go. Somehow he traveled, but an idea came to his mind because of this. He founded Ola. He discussed with his friend Ankit Bhati, and they developed an app on which they can people can book Ola cab, and price is pre-decided. App will tell this much is the fare, and you are supposed to pay that much fare only. Not even in cash. If you want to pay cash, it is okay. But if you are having Ola app, under Ola app, there is Ola Money is there. If you upload Ola Money there, that money will be automatically deducted out of that. So no cash transaction. So that idea came to him by this reason. Now, Flipkart story is very popular. Sachin Bansal and Bindi Bansal. Both are Bansals. Both studied together, but both are not brothers. Both are different person. They met each other when they were studying only. So they founded Flipkart in 2007. Before that, they had some experience in working with Amazon. They established Flipkart only to sell books initially. They used to book orders, pack the books and send by post. Initially, they started with that. Then they extended their business. They purchased some book stores. Then they started selling some other products also. And gradually, they have grown like anything. And finally, in 2018, Walmart has purchased some 77% of share in Flipkart by paying $16 billion. $16 billion for 77% stake in the organization. They started with very, very small capital. Opportunities were there, they grabbed that opportunity. One more, Swiggy. The idea behind this is these 3%. Idea is you book, we want to go to some restaurants to eat some food of our taste. We like food from this particular restaurant, not that one, but I want food from restaurant A. Now this system came, you book from restaurant A and the product will be taken from there and it will be delivered at your doorstep. Now no need to go out of your house. You book on mobile, you get some discounts there, and within some limited time is given there, you can track whether product is made or not, packed or not, handled to the delivery man or not, delivery man where he is going, everything you can track, and you can make payment online and things will be delivered at your home, at your doorstep. It is hot, very well packed, and this idea is very good. No need to go out if you don't want to go out. There are many people who actually every day on daily basis they go, they take food from restaurants. The students who are studying in hostels or rented house for study purpose. They are not cooking. They are following this. So the idea was there. They identified that there is a scope for this kind of product, and they fulfilled this. Okay. Now Zomato and others also are there. One more, and after this I'll finish. Mahesh Gupta is founder of Kantaro Purifier. He is also an engineer only. He did his engineering in 1975, long back. But in 1990, 1998, or nearly that period, his son got suffered from jaundice. And usually it happens when anyone is sick in our family, we start reading about that. We want to get all information about that kind of disease. We become a small doctor actually. So what he did, he also tried to search and many things he read about this, and he identified that actually jaundice, not identified, actually people know this, it is common thing, that jaundice is a waterborne disease, problem in water, purification of water. Then he thought that he will purchase a good water filter. He searched for whole city, many water filters he checked and analyzed their capability to filter the water, and he realized that none of the purifier available in market was doing that work effectively, what he wanted, the level he wanted. He was a mechanical engineer, he was from engineering field, so it was not very big thing for him to develop a purifier. So he developed it on that line what he wanted, because he suffered from jaundice. He wanted to supply a product which can fulfill that gap, and he developed this Kent RO system he introduced in India, and now he's captured purifier industry by nearly 45%. So these are the things we think, the persons, thousands of leaders are hereby, but we don't see them. Only when they get success, we start recognizing them. There are many other such leaders available. So with this, I'll finish my presentation. Thank you. I've taken, I think, little longer time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And you had taken 10-minute longer time, but it was so exciting that we can't request you to stop, because I was also learning, and it is one of the excellent lecture that I attended on the leadership. So thank you so much, sir, for delivering a very exciting lecture with so many modern example and linking the national and international leadership to the ground level leadership. So we are highly excited by your lecture. And sir, so many participants are asking to share their PPT. So
Okay.
Please send your PPT so that I can forward to them.
Okay.
So thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. As they are waiting for the lunch.
Okay.
That's why, and after 1 hour, we will start the next session on yoga and stress management, and that will be taken by Professor Avinash Pathardikar, Dean, Faculty of Management Studies, BBS, Purvanchal University, Jaunpur. So we will again assemble here after 1 hour. So thank you so much, sir.